What's up, team? You're making OKR much harder on yourself than it needs to be. And here's why: when you're dealing with multiple teams. And it's a simple thing that you need to be thinking about as you're doing your OKR setting and finalizing your OKR setting. Stick with me to the end of this video because I'm actually going to share with you some practices that are going to make this so much easier. Here's the problem. The teams, when you're doing your OKR setting, aren't aligned. They set their goals, everyone's pushing off in different directions, and you're not doing that part to bring them back and get them on the same page, which means that the whole intent of OKRs, although we might be aligning towards bigger picture goals in the business, it still means we're all heaving in different directions. You're missing the part that closes the loop. So it means that your OKRs, because you're not going through any sort of structured, formal sort of review process where everyone's getting a chance to look at the OKRs, they're probably worse quality. You're not going to be sure of where are their dependencies in the business. In fact, I bet there's going to be people who are finding out that they're contributing to an OKR after the OKR has already been set. And that is a scary, scary thing. The other part is because people aren't looking at each other's goals, they all think that, hey, my goal is most important. The reality is we need to be looking at this across the business to understand who's working on what, where some people contributing maybe a little bit more to the key goals of the business, the OKRs at the top of the business, or where are other things that people are working on that are just really genuinely important. Let's all get clear on that. Now, this is a little thing that we came up with, and it's actually not unique to us. We call it the OKR Playback, but it actually comes from the Defense Force, where basically at the end of a mission briefing, the group get together, they come up with a plan, and the idea is, off the back of this, they present this back to the command. And they basically say, right, we heard the briefing, we heard you tell us what you wanted us to achieve. Here's how we're going to make it happen. And what this does is it empowers the troopers or whoever it might be, the Marines, to go out and come up with a plan, but then also brief it back to the leadership team so that they understand how are they going to approach it, and also vet, do they actually think that it's going to achieve the outcome that they expected? Is it a pretty solid mission plan? So we've taken this back briefing concept and turned it into the OKR Playback. Now, how does it work? Well, what I want you to do is go through your OKR setting process. Now, if you're watching this video at the moment, you're basically at the tail end of the current quarter, which means you should be thinking about, in fact, you probably should already have your next OKR. So regardless of the case, you really want to be at a point where you're crystal clear on your OKR and being ready to share that as a group. So we like to set a playback date. Now that might be the last week of the quarter. It might be the end of the first week of the quarter for you. Work out what suits, but that's where we bring together all the teams to showcase their OKRs. Now, if you're a small enough business, you might be able to do this in a single sitting across the entire business. And even then, a lot of businesses, even up to about 500 people, can actually do this in a single session. For others, you might find that you actually need to break it down a little bit so that it might be by function or it might be by customer. It does depend on your organization structure. But either way, you need to work out, do we do it as a single group or do we do it as individual sort of parts of the business? Now, here's the topics that you're going to cover, and this might give you a bit of an idea of the structure. So first and foremost during the playback, the purpose is of course to get us all aligned and focused on the same set of outcomes, understand those dependencies, who's doing what, shout out for help, where do we all need a bit of extra support, and also getting a bit of feedback. I've sometimes called this the OKR roasting. Probably don't call it that when you're starting out with OKR, but maybe a little bit later you can start to bring that in as a bit of a practice. So let's work our way from the top. Number one, we want to have someone who is a leader in the business, quite senior, share the company OKR. Typically, this is the CEO that's going to share this. And this shouldn't be a surprise to people. Everyone should have seen it. But we just recap on it. We also might have found that the OKR might have changed. Because remember, it's a top-down, bottom-up sort of approach. So during the team OKR setting, we might have found out new information. That means the company OKR needs to change. In either case, we cover that off. And most importantly, why that OKR is important. Again, this is one of the most key parts of OKRs. Be clear on the why. So once the CEO has had a chance to talk about that, or one of the leaders in the business, we then go by team, talking about the objective, the key results that they're working on, and where they need support, and of course, why their OKR is important. Generally, it's going to be quite a brief statement on the why. It should be linking up to the top, but if it doesn't link up, they're going to have to be a little bit more clear on why that is. But again, what's their objective? What are the key results? Where do they need support? And again, this is a wonderful opportunity. If you're doing work that is particularly focused inside the business, if it's for customers, maybe you can get a bit of help from the business, maybe you need a bit of help from marketing and a few others, but ultimately, you've got a fair bit of control over your work. But if you're doing something that influences the inner workings of the business, for your HR team, this thing is like nitros for your OKR. It absolutely supercharges it because you can get commitment in this session for people to support, whether it's response rate to an employee engagement survey, whatever it might be. This is your time to say, hey, this is our goal. We really want you to help us achieve this. So we'd really love you to respond to the engagement survey. It's a really cool opportunity. Okay, so you've gone through your objective, your key results, why it's important, and how everyone can help. Every team has a chance to talk about this, and we just cycle through each team. You might even want to talk about key initiatives or projects that are happening just for visibility. You work out what the right level of detail is for your particular team. What I like to do is mix it up. I don't like the team leader to be speaking to this stuff. We want a member of the team to own this. So it's a good chance for anyone that's comfortable speaking in front of a group to jump up and share. Finally, we get to the end of the session, and that's where we've got an open floor question and answer sort of session. So that might be questions and answers for anyone. Of course, we can ask specific questions for individual OKRs along the way, but then we close it off with just more of an open forum discussion. And my friends, that is how you do the OKR playback. At the end of that session, we should be all aligned. We should have all given a bit of feedback on each other's OKR. So don't be afraid if you look at a team's OKR to give suggestions for improvement. Never give just a negative one saying, I don't like that OKR. But if you've got an idea to improve it, shout that out. Make sure you're thinking and listening as people are going through their OKRs. Is there an implicit dependency on you? Are they going to need your help this quarter? And maybe they just haven't thought to ask you. So again, this isn't the time when you should be doing that alignment piece and discussing dependencies. It is the final moment. Hopefully you've had time to do that earlier. If you are dependent on other teams, you probably want to include them in your OKR setting. But gang, there you have it. That is your OKR playback. Now, if you're at a point where you're still setting your OKRs, here's 2 videos that I want to share with you. One is all about how you set great OKRs and get some really good key results that right now you might be struggling to find. Another one is actually the process. How do you go through an OKR workshop with your team? Check those 2 videos out. And of course, if you have any questions or need any help, please feel free to contact us. You can jump on our website or you can just drop a comment below. I promise you I will get back to it and share my thoughts with you. Otherwise, have an epic rest of your day. Peace.